Hello and welcome to another edition of The Tigers Down Under. I'm your host as always, Alex, and with me tonight I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm all right. A little bit picked up a little bit in spirits after the that game against Swansea.
Yeah, what a remarkable game it was. Interesting way to start the weekend with a 4-4 draw against Swansea. It was a pretty unexpected scoreline, I guess, after you've got two sides that didn't have a shot on target between them in their midweek games. I guess, remarkable in the sense that Lopez and also Madison got their first goals for the club. Eves getting a stoppage time equaliser. And who am I forgetting? Who was the fourth goal?
Wilkes.
Wilkes, of course. Yeah, 2 goals in 3 games or something like that, I think. So, all round, I guess, silver lining is the positives of our attacking players finding their feet. Madison getting his first goal, but I guess defensive frailties are always an issue. But I guess when you go down 4-3 in the 83rd minute, I think it was, you're always going to take a point at that stage. So what did you make of it?
It was just a frenetic, wild, crazy game. It was, we started so brightly and deservedly took the lead, and then I think their first was that the short corner routine they did or something. Oh no, the first one was
just that cross across the
goal,
box I think Elder and McLaughlin just got sucked into the play and their man was at the back.
Yeah, that's right. Pennington went to ground. McLaughlin charged forward, and then Elder charged forward and left the rear, the back post sort of very, very open. I don't know. It was a bit, but when we were attacking, I thought we looked fairly dangerous for the most part. Created plenty of opportunities. But it was just those defensive frailties once again, and it was interesting. I was reading about some of the stats, and basically, they said when we've had our first choice back four of Elder, Device, Burke, and Lehigh, and the only time we've had there was 10 games in November and December, and we picked up like 20 out of 24 points or something. Yeah. And without that back four, it's like 12 of 30. It's something ridiculous. Like it's so wild how different those numbers are. But I think you see with all the teams that are winning competition, basically, if they have a solid team and they can play, close to the same 11, or they have that strongest team available all, consistently, they perform really, really well. Or they, have the resources that allows for, stronger depth. But, you look at, without, trying to draw comparisons to Liverpool or in any sort of way, but, they've had a very stable back four for essentially 2 seasons, and pretty much, and their defense, the defensive record shows that. And
and the perfect comparison as well is to Manchester City, where you look at Laporte coming out of that back line early in the season, and they've certainly struggled after that. I don't think it's any coincidence. You look at in any sport, really, the sides that do well tend to be the sides that have a really lucky run with injuries, and for whatever reason. Even you look at Scott's injury in his first or second training session with us, going down within seconds of stepping on the pitch. It's just something about whether it's, whether we need to get the groundkeepers flattening the surface a bit more at the training pitch, whether it's just unluckiness. We just seem to have a really rotten luck with injuries.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the key for all our poor form at the moment is, at one point we had 12 seniors out, and we've joked about a few times that infamous preseason photo in Portugal. We were almost reminiscent of that again with the amount of injuries we had. So, we got through. We didn't pick up as many points as we wanted, over the last few weeks, but we've, a few young guys have got their opportunity on the bench. James Berry got a bit of time the other week. It's not all bad. I think, the positives from the 4-4 is that, we actually won. We scored some goals, which had been missing. And we never really looked out of the game. I don't think even at, like you say, we went down, went a goal behind in the 83rd minute, and you sort of go, we're maybe running out of time. But I never really thought like, I thought we still were in with a chance because we were, we'd changed to two up top. We'd thrown, I thought we were giving a good account of ourselves anyway. So, yeah, it was just a wild game. It was it's hard to put your finger on. Some good performances and some in some regards.
I mean, I guess the other big talking point out of the game as well was Jackson Irvine being handed the captain's armband, presumably for the rest of the season. And he was pretty instrumental in a couple of our goals. I think he played a few great balls out wide to first Elder to then whip in some crosses, and then also to Batty, who got, I think, the assist for the third goal, I want to say. So he was starting to sort of look a bit more of a commanding presence in that midfield spot, and clearly is one of our more senior players in the side at the moment, especially with the injuries that we've had. So what do you make of his performance and also of him getting the armband?
I thought he was good. I thought he was his usual energetic, bustling self. And I thought for the most part, you mentioned his passing. I thought his passing was for the most part really good. Which admittedly probably over the last few weeks, I think his passing has been down a little bit. He actually can, every now and then he has a really good eye and can play a magic ball. We've seen it a few times this year playing, Grasicki or Bowen into the box off some really lovely balls. But I think he's been a little bit probably inconsistent over January and February with the passing, but I think he really stepped it up. And I think that might just be, that extra weight of responsibility. It might be something that he really relishes as captain. So.
Yeah, well, moving on to look ahead to the weekend, we do have Preston away on the Saturday night, and it feels a long time ago now to look back at that home win against them where we beat them 4-0. So obviously a very different lineup we will have going into this one, and it's a very different sort of a beast to approach this game in a much worse position, I guess, form-wise than we were at the time. They've won 3 of their last 5 games and they're sitting 6th, so it will be a pretty difficult challenge, although they did lose last time out to Millwall. I guess the positive that we can sort of take coming into this game is that we do have that bulk of senior players fit, or at least coming back to fitness now. I think McGann said that guys like Device and Burke, Samuelson, Terrell, Stewart, who made the bench against Swansea, should all be approaching match fitness, which is a real positive. I think, calling back to that stat that you mentioned before, where the back four being what it was a large contributing factor in us picking up points. Obviously, Lehigh's out for the season, but if we can get 3 of those four back in, I think that'd be a great step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and then I guess with that, it's Pennington and McKenzie, I guess, are vying for that right back position. And it would be hard, I think, at this stage, based on each of their performances in that position. It would be hard to really say that one is a clear front runner in that battle. But I think it's also good to see Angus MacDonald finally cleared back at training. He's going to be a while before he's ready for the first team. But I think McCann said he wants to work his fitness up, get him in the under-23s, get a few games in before he steps into the first team. But it's after a horrendous 18 months, first with DVT and then bowel cancer, to be back here, training again and back in with the side is an amazing accomplishment for him personally. So that's awesome as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as we were saying, with the luck that we've had with injuries, it can be pretty crazy to think that the poor luck that Angus MacDonald's had. So, as you say, I mean, even just getting back to training and getting back amongst the boys would be a huge positive for him. And whether or not he gets back into the senior side this season, I think it's still a real positive end to the season for him. Are there any? So I guess it's hard to suggest changes to the side for Preston without knowing the fitness levels of some of the players. But I guess based on the performance against Swansea, are there any changes that you sort of see to make? For instance, I mean, I know we both sort of share the same opinion of Magennis. I think, interestingly, he was voted man of the match in that game, except, I'd probably still prefer to see Eves up top, especially now with that bit of confidence from scoring that equaliser late on. And the other option, which, I mean, I've seen a few people talking about, which, is why not start Keane Lewis-Potter up top? I'm kind of interested to see why we haven't given him that opportunity to see what he can do. Perhaps McGann sees him more long-term as a winger, I'm not sure, but give the kid a run in the senior side, give him a start and see what he can do, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage of the season, and where we are, I mean, but it can't really hurt. Worst case scenario, if he doesn't perform in there, you can hook him at half time without trying to be cruel about it. But if you get going from the off, you've got plenty of time to see how he pans out and make changes if you need to. But I think if I was going to make changes, I'd probably only be thinking if it was Device or Burke were fit enough to start. They'd probably be the only changes I'd think about bringing them back into that middle of the defence. But it'd be interesting if Terral is fit enough, even for 15 or 20 minutes at the end of the game. He has the potential to be a real game changer, game winner if he's on and can stay fit for the rest of the season. He could be a real asset.
Yeah, and I mean, he's another one whose career with City has really been cruelled by injuries, and when he's fit, he's been one of the best players in the side, and especially that run of games that he had earlier this season where he really sort of showed a lot of promise. It would be great to see if he can get back into the side. I guess also looking at the Barnsley game, because we can kind of look at them as a collective, I guess the other element that's interesting with Barnsley is, of course, that Wilkes will be unable to play against his parent club. So I guess from that point of view, we then look at other options on the wing. I guess with Samuelson potentially back to full fitness, it would be interesting to see him get a run into the side. I noticed, I guess, against Swansea, we were sort of playing Irvine in that wider position, which is a bit of an interesting one. It would be good to get a bit more natural width in the side. So again, that makes me question whether Keane Lewis-Potter should be in the starting side one way or the other. And then I guess against Barnsley, the option would be to throw Samuelson in.
Yeah. With Wilkes unavailable, I think based on how things have been going, I imagine it would probably be Keane Lewis-Potter against Barnsley. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to get some options again, which is a nice position to be in, and hopefully, if we can continue to the players that are currently fit stay fit, and the remaining few come back into fitness, bar obviously Lehigh and Scott, who are out for the season. I think there's still plenty of games left, and we have a lot of games against I think we just about play all bar one of the current bottom six teams, I think. So we've got not an easy run into the end of the season, but we have plenty of opportunities to pick up, and we only need 2 or 3 wins, I think, and we'll be safe for this season. So there's plenty of opportunities to do that, and I think in the coming week, 3. I'd say at least 3, 4 points would be great. But I'd say I'd be hopeful, for a good solid performance against Preston, backing up from Swansea, hopefully tightening up a little bit. But I'm probably not super hopeful, but maybe a draw. But I'd be fairly hopeful and confident that we could get the 3 points against Barnsley.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd like to think that we've sort of turned a corner after that Swansea game, that we've everyone sort of said when Bowen and Grzycki left, where are the goals going to come from? And that certainly didn't seem to be a problem against Swansea. So hopefully that gives the players from the side a bit of confidence. It was great to see Maddison get his first goal, for instance. I mean, he's looked really lively since coming in. So hopefully that goal really kind of helps him kick on. Same with Malik Wilkes. So for both of them, it could be a really great opportunity against Preston to kick on and get some consistency in their game. Of course, unfortunate that Wilkes can't then back up against Barnsley, but like you said, I think if we can get 3 points, maybe even 4 points from the 2 games, I think that would be a great return. Given the fact I think we've got 2 points from our last 15 available or whatever it is, 18 available maybe from the last 6 games. I think that'd be quite a promising return. And then we just see where we go from there. I think, like you said, it's only 2 or 3 wins that are needed to really secure our safety, and then once you're safe, you can really start looking forward and planning for the next season. I feel like we sort of every season have issues where we can't really look at renewing players' contracts or sorting out players' contracts until we know what division we're in, and every season it seems to be left quite late to have that confirmed. So the sooner that happens, the better we can start looking at next season and start planning, player contracts and player movements and all that sort of thing. So that would certainly be a positive. Well, just before we finish off tonight, we did speak just before about the 4-0 win over Preston, and we're casting our minds back to another 4-0 win in our football flashback. It's a 4-0 away win at Cardiff in the Premier League, which happened just about, would have been 6 years, about 6 years ago now, because it would have been early 2014 under Steve Bruce, first season back in the Premier League. It's the quirky stat of being, I believe, still Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's worst home defeat in the Premier League. Back when he was manager of Cardiff, and it was courtesy of 2 Jelavic goals, a Livermore goal, and a Huddleston goal. So, we watched the highlights of this one just before we recorded, and looking back at it, I almost feel like it was one of our most complete Premier League performances. I know we had that 6-0 win against Fulham, but in terms of just the side, just looked it gelled very well. It looked very complete. It looked very natural all over the pitch. Long and Jelavic linking up top really well. It just looked like, it was a great performance from a great City team.
Yeah, it was one of the, as you say, a great performance, and Jelavic at the time he went great for us while we had him for the most part. So it was a really strong performance from him. A nice, a sort of a trademark long range Huddleston strike, and then Livermore cleaned up a nice passing movement through the midfield and a late run into the box and side-footed in the bottom corner. It was a sort of a good performance, and I think Long and Jelavic probably one of our best forward 2 combination of players that we've had. It's hard to think of a pair who were both performing consistently well together for such an extended period of time.
Yeah, and in a way it was a shame that we only had them for the, I think, 6 or 7 months that it ended up being. Obviously Long then getting sold to Southampton, but for that run of games they were really fantastic together. And we didn't really secure our safety until I think it was a win against Swansea about a month or 2 later. But really this 4-0 win against Cardiff, who ended up going down and were basically one of our rivals for the relegation spots, this was sort of the game that really sort of, to me at least, secured our safety and gave me a lot of confidence that we basically from that point on turned our attention to the FA Cup run. I don't know. So it was a great game to look back on. Coincidentally, another game against a Welsh side where we were able to score 4 goals, but at least in that one we were able to keep the clean sheet. But thank you for joining me tonight, Dan.
No worries, anytime.
And thank you everyone for listening in. We have 2 big games this week against Preston and Barnsley. Hopefully we can come away with the 6 points. So you never know. Maybe fortunes have changed now that we've started finding our scoring boots and players are coming back, and we could be back here this time next week talking about 2 victories. But until then, come on City. You've been listening to the official Hull City Australia podcast. For more discussion, join us on Facebook in the Hull City AFC Australian Supporters Group, or follow us on Twitter at Hull City AFC Oz. The music was created by Amber and Black. Going higher and higher. There's no turning back 'cause you're out.